Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Abandoned and Awakened as the Demon God movie. Before we start, please go support AlexanderTaldeer for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei Hyoudou, son of a wealthy family, possessor of great power, member of the Gremory clan, but as a child he is forgotten by his parents, who focus on his younger sister Naomi. She has everything, good grades, bearer of Ddraig the Welsh dragon, beauty, fans, power. She has more than him, but not everything is as it seems. Chapter 1. Sad reality. Years back. Kuo Hospital, at night. In the hospital, a woman was seen giving birth to two small twins. One was a brown-haired boy with honey-colored eyes, and the other a brown-haired girl with honey-colored eyes. The girl was crying while the boy was looking at something. He was serious, but then he fell asleep. That day the siblings Hyoudou, Issei and Naomi were born. What no one knew is that on that day hope would be born against the destruction of the world. Current time. Academia Kuo Class 2B. At Kuo Academy, a brown-haired boy with honey-colored eyes was seen looking out the window, melancholic and slightly depressed. At one point, he glanced at his twin sister Naomi, who was surrounded by fans who adored her, practically idolized her. She had perfect grades, a kind character, and beauty. But nobody paid attention to Issei, and they practically didn't notice him, except for his best and only friends, Mitsuda, Motohama, and Kiryu, who were faithful to Issei. They really adore her, Issei thought, looking sideways at Naomi who had practically everything. Hey Issei, do you want to go spy on the girls from the kendo club? Motohama asked. No thanks, I'm not in the mood, Issei exclaimed, giving a deep sigh filled with depression. Issei, are you okay? Kiryu asked worriedly. Yes, it's nothing, exclaimed Issei, approaching Kiryu and giving him a kiss on the cheek. I'm going to breathe fresh air. And I already have your gift for your birthday, said Issei, walking out the door, giving a fake smile that hid pain and nostalgia. Issei mumbled Kiryu worriedly. Hey, what's wrong with your boyfriend? Mitsuda asked. I don't know, he's just too depressed. I hope he doesn't do anything crazy, exclaimed Kiryu, looking out the window. That last thing reached Naomi's ears, who looked for a few seconds where Issei had come out, and a worried face formed on her face. So here you are, a voice was heard behind Issei. What do you want, Kiba? Issei exclaimed, looking at the sky, sitting on a tree branch. Nothing, but you just wants you for, Kiba was saying before Issei interrupted him. Give this to Rias, said Issei, throwing 8 pawn pieces to Kiba, who grabbed them stupefied. Tell her to reincarnate Naomi, since she is the security. But that said, Issei jumped and walked forward. Kiba was surprised not by the fact that Issei could take out the pawn pieces from inside him, but by the fact that he noticed that look full of nostalgia that he had. New Issei-kun, but you wanted to see you. Exclaimed Kiba, seeing how Issei walked with his hands in his pockets and his head down. But you just wanted to congratulate you. With that, Kiba turned around and went back the way he came. The cult club room. Rias was taking some papers, looking at them with a sigh. Akeno was preparing tea and Kaneko was preparing cookies. At that, Kiba entered the classroom depressed. Kiba-senpai, where is Issei-senpai? Exclaimed the lowly, slightly worried because she had prepared cookies for Issei. He is gone, exclaimed Kiba, taking the pawn pieces out of his pocket, leaving the girls paralyzed. At this, Kaneko dropped the tray paralyzed, Akeno dropped her teacup to the floor, and Rias opened her eyes surprised and worried. What happened? Rias exclaimed, trying to appear neutral, but she couldn't. It was Issei, the person who had helped her so much since he became her servant a year ago. I don't know, he simply took out the pawn pieces from his pocket and looks at the pieces in detail. They are very cracked. Only when Kiba said that, Kaneko quickly ran and took the pieces in her hands. And it can't be, Akeno exclaimed, running to Kaneko, who had her eyes wide open. It's true, but the pieces came out of her body because she couldn't bear Issei-senpai's power, exclaimed Kaneko, shocked. But what did Kiba tell you that Issei told you? Rias exclaimed, becoming more and more upset. He said that he reincarnated his sister Naomi, exclaimed Kiba. It is true that she is the security, but Issei, we must look for him. Shuts up. What is this? Exclaimed Rias, grabbing a card that appeared in front of her. Rias, if you read this, don't worry, I will continue helping them, but lately I have been very depressed, and little by little, with the overwhelming training that I have had, my power is getting out of control. Rias, I ask you reincarnate Naomi as your pawn before the broths go after her. She could be reincarnated by the angels, but I asked Michael if Gabriel could reincarnate Naomi as his ace of hearts, but when he told me that to be reincarnated as an angel, you need to believe in God, and I know that he is dead as well, and Naomi does not believe in him, therefore it is impossible. Now I ask you, Rias, please make Naomi your servant and tell Akeno-san and Kaneko-chan not to worry. Rias, after finishing reading the letter, felt more relieved and showed the letter to everyone. It's decided, we're going to do what Issei says, exclaimed Rias, disappearing in a magic circle. A mountain to the south. What are you doing here, Issei? exclaimed a blue-haired girl behind Issei. Oh Calwerner, no nothing, I'm just meditating and you? Asked Issei stretching his head back looking at the fall. We're monitoring the place, exclaimed a black-haired girl next to Issei. Uma-chan, what a surprise, you came back from Gremory. Issei exclaimed happily. He came for you, haha exclaimed a blonde with pigtails sitting on Issei's legs. Mythal is that true Uma-chan? Issei exclaimed looking at the black-haired girl. Then it's not true, why would I come for you, don't be so conceited exclaimed Yuma, crossing her arms, looking away, slightly blushing. Sundeer whispered Middle looking at Yuma smiling. Haha, well the view here is pretty, don't you think? Exclaimed Calwerner sitting next to Issei. It's very nice, Issei exclaimed, laying his head on the grass, but then Yuma lifted his head and laid it on his lap. Better asked Yuma smiling. Yes thank you exclaimed Issei closing his eyes to rest a bit. Hours later same place. Hey Issei wake up exclaimed Calwerner sitting on Issei's waist. What's going on? He exclaimed, opening his eyes, seeing the blue-haired girl sitting on his legs, Middle at his side taking photos, and Yuma asleep, clinging to his right arm. It's getting late, we're leaving. Hey Yuma wake up. Exclaimed the blue-haired girl looking at Issei, we would like to spend more time with you, but we have things to do kisses him on the cheek by Issei. Show Calwerner exclaimed smiling. See you Issei exclaimed Middle hugging Issei leaving him almost breathless. Goodbye Middle, Issei exclaimed, taking a deep breath trying to catch his breath. See you later Issei exclaimed Yuma hugging Issei giving him a kiss on the cheek and then leaving. Well, what does it matter? Issei exclaimed, standing up. I have to go with Kiryu to give him his gift. Haidu residence main hall. Naomi was sitting looking at the sky thinking. Flashback. Naomi was leaving the academy for her house and was trying to look for Issei everywhere, but when she couldn't find him, she decided to go in the direction of the occult club to which Issei had belonged for a year now. When she arrived, she looked for her brother everywhere, but only found a letter. When she grabbed it she noticed that it was Issei's handwriting. When she finished reading it, she opened her eyes in surprise, at which moment Issei knew that she had the Longinus of the Welsh dragon. Claw's back end. She was sitting looking at the ceiling, her legs crossed, showing off her perfect legs and her arms crossed, slightly inflating her DD cup breasts. Ani-chan where are you thought Naomi looking at a dead spot in the room until her parents arrived. Daughter, you're here, have it, said her mother, handing her a small box. What is it? Naomi exclaimed, grabbing the box. When she opened it she was surprised to see inside a beautiful silver necklace with a small diamond heart and a pair of diamond earrings. Thank you Oka-san Otu-san he exclaimed, hugging them both. At that moment Issei entered and his parents tensed up when they saw him because they forgot about him, his birthday, his gift practically. For a few years they had focused on Naomi and completely forgot about him. H-san welcome exclaimed Issei's mother nervously. But Issei just continued on his way, went to his room, closed the door, looked for his clothes, after a few minutes he decided on a pair of dark blue jeans, a white polo shirt and some dress shoes that he bought with his own money. After that he went to take a shower. He didn't even listen to me, Issei's mother thought, clearly depressed. I have to ask Ani-chan something, Naomi exclaimed, walking slowly up the stairs. Issei had taken a shower, it was just a quick shower to get rid of his tiredness, because at the academy he had already taken a shower because he had physical education. After that Issei came out of the bathroom with only a towel around his waist. Ani-chan, can I come in? No response well, I'll come in anyway Naomi exclaimed, opening the room. What she saw left her stunned, in front of her was Issei naked putting on his boxers, revealing his body which was quite defined, not exaggeratedly so, but it was noticeable that he trained, but not in the gym, but through some discipline. Said Issei when he felt someone's gaze behind him, and when he turned around his eyes opened wide when he found Naomi Q. What are you doing here Naomi? Iho Issei intentando no tartamudeer. I edo by Naomi exclaimed, turning around quickly but tripped on the carpet, almost falling to the floor. I say almost because Issei grabbed her waist in time, preventing her from hitting the doorknob. Are you okay? Issei asked, looking into Naomi's eyes. Yes, thank you Ani-chan she exclaimed blushing. Well then Issei exclaimed, separating himself from Naomi who was already standing. Yes I have too she said stuttering. Yes and I must said Issei also stuttering. See you Naomi exclaimed, coming out of the brunette's room, super blushing I didn't know about Ani-chan, I didn't think he had such a defined body. But Issei, he was shaking his head at his younger sister's attitude until he remembered Kiryu because today would be his party and he had to hurry because he was late. Damn, I'm late. He exclaimed, running around the room, changing completely, put on some cologne, combed his hair a little and left his room like lightning, but not before taking a little black box and putting it in his pocket. He took his cell phone that he bought along with his headphones and left. When he went down the room he tripped and almost fell on his face, but he turned around and landed on his feet. Phew, not bad, Issei thought. Oh, Issei-kun, I wanted to ask you something, exclaimed Issei's father. I'm not in a hurry now, Issei said coldly, running out the door. Okay, Mr. Hyoudou exclaimed, lowering his head. Kiryu party event hall. Issei ran like lightning once he arrived at his girlfriend's party, he took a deep breath and entered. Hello Issei, you're late, Kiryu exclaimed, hugging Issei and giving him a kiss on the lips. Yes, sorry, it's just that I had some inconveniences. Issei exclaimed, looking away. Then well come in and my gift, exclaimed Kiryu looking at Issei with puppy eyes. Then exclaimed, handing the little box to Kiryu. When Kiryu opened the box he saw a silver necklace with a ruby heart with silver edges. Do you like it? Issei asked. I love it, she exclaimed, hugging Issei. You put it on me, exclaimed Kiryu, giving the necklace to Issei, and she turned around grabbing her hair and putting it in front, leaving her neck exposed. Issei put the necklace on Kiryu, who blushed at the brunette's act. Then they entered the party, they danced, ate, laughed. After that both were on the terrace of the event hall, looking at the stars in the sky and the moon, Issei lying on the wall and Kiryu lying on his chest. It's beautiful, Kiryu exclaimed, looking at the night sky. It's even more beautiful to have you by my side, said Issei, hugging Kiryu, causing him to blush quite a bit. I remember when we met, hahaha, it was a disaster, exclaimed Kiryu, smiling. Yes, I still remember the first argument, exclaimed Issei, looking at the sky. Flashback. A year ago, before Issei joined the Gremory clan and before he met Kiryu, and days after encountering the falls. Issei, phew, what a boring day. Issei exclaimed, looking at the sky until he collided with someone. Watch where you're going, exclaimed a female voice. Ouch, you look clumsy, Issei exclaimed, annoyed. When he looked up he saw a brunette with glasses and pigtails wearing the Kuo Academy uniform. TCH annoying, exclaimed Kiryu, standing up. TCH bitter, exclaimed Issei, standing up. Both continued their way until Issei entered the classroom and was sitting until the teacher announced that a new student would arrive. Issei didn't take it too seriously unless the new girl was that brunette. Days passed and they got along better and better, they laughed, played, joked. After several days Issei invited her on a date. When they arrived at the park Issei declared his love to her and she happily accepted. After that day Issei was walking quietly around until he passed by an abandoned warehouse in which he felt demonic power. When he entered he saw explosions and saw an albino loli fly towards the wall. Before she hit the wall, Issei grabbed her, receiving the impact. Who are you? Asked the loli. What's going on? Issei exclaimed, somewhat hurt, hugging the loli. I asked first, she exclaimed, looking up, and Issei looked down, meeting Issei's gaze. I do, Issei, and if I'm not mistaken you are Kaneko Taoju, the academy's pet, exclaimed Issei, rubbing the loli's head. At that an explosion was heard and then a redeed flew out. Issei grabbed her using his power, it was a silver energy. Thank you, said the redeed, looking straight ahead. Ria-senpai? Issei exclaimed in surprise. After that, a black-haired girl and a blonde man came out, exhausted. Kiba. Akeno-senpai. What the hell is going on here? Issei exclaimed, his head about to explode from thinking so much. At that moment a strange two-headed being came out. Rias, Akeno exclaimed, looking in terror as she saw that being heading towards Rias. She was in shock, but Issei reacted in time, hitting that being with his fist in black flames, destroying it. Flashback end. Since then Issei became Ria's pawn, but his power was such that the pawn pieces could barely bear him. Chapter 2. Awakening. After Issei and Kiryu stayed looking at the sky, she fell asleep. He took her inside the party and left her to his friends, while Mitsuda and Motohama were singing. The brown-haired man left the party and stared at the starry sky. At that moment, the environment changed to a more distorted one, as if you had smoked marijuana and were really high. Then that it changed to a room with a double bed with red covers, with a wardrobe, desks and so on, and Issei was nervous. Hello Lilith. Issei asked with real fear because the archdemon with whom he made the pact 3 years ago and she gave him her power, her soul and body live in Issei. Oh, until you come here, exclaimed a female voice behind Issei. I'm sorry Lilith, it said Issei, scared to death and sweating profusely. Not making excuses, Issei-kun said in a sensual tone, biting Issei's ear. Lilith P. sorry. Issei exclaimed nervously. Don't apologize, just show that you're sorry, exclaimed Lilith, standing in front of Issei. The image of this was a beautiful woman with pale skin, black hair, red eyes, killer hips, F-cup breasts and good shapely legs, a monument to any man's sight. On her head she had 2 horns and a pair of bat wings. How do you want me to prove it? Lilith exclaimed, Issei knowing the answer of the queen of the succubus. Hours later. Issei woke up on the terrace seeing the time that marked 1:39 am and he was exhausted, not to say exhausted. Damn, Issei thought. It's a cheap price to pay for providing you with my power, my dear, she exclaimed in Issei's mind. Why yeah, said Issei, standing up and heading inside the party. Once inside he saw that some were asleep, some on the chairs, others on the floor, and a skinny guy who was spinning in a fan, and Kiryu was resting with his friends on a couch. After that some people started to leave because the clock read 2 a.m. Issei danced with Kiryu about 3 pieces, then he left because he had to do something the next day. They both said goodbye with a kiss on the lips. The next day. Issei woke up in his bed still dressed like last night, then he changed, took a shower, put on some grey pants, a white shirt and black shoes, his watch, put his cell phone in his pocket, put his headphones around his neck, put on perfume and went down, but not before locking his room, in case the rapists or stalkers or incestuous sisters put away his keys, took out his wallet and had 4,000 yen, put it away, and went down to eat something. Once downstairs he collided with Naomi, being just a few centimeters away from each other to the point that their lips touched and their breaths mixed. "Oh Ani-chan," whispered Naomi, blushing. At that moment Issei's mind was blank until he noticed that Naomi was wearing mini shorts without panties and a t-shirt without a bra underneath highlighting her breasts. Issei gulped. "You pervert, you are already thinking unholy things with your sister." Lilith's voice resonated in Issei's head. "Shut up," Issei mentally ordered the succubus. Hi Naomi, I," he said, kissing Naomi's cheek, making her blush more. Then Issei bit the toast Naomi had in her hand and left the house like lightning, almost falling on the carpet. Issei in a hurry didn't realize that he kissed Naomi on the corner of her lip, but Naomi noticed and was red as a tomato and leaned against the wall so as not to faint. After that she touched her blushed cheek with her fingertips and then saw her toast where the side that Issei had bitten. After that she blushed and bit that side while slowly savoring her toast. "What are you doing, daughter?" her mother asked from behind Naomi. "Then nothing," he said, swallowing the bite of toast, blushing. "Aha, and why are you so blushing when your brother almost kissed you on the lips and bit your toast and now you're biting the side he did?" exclaimed the woman, smiling and crossing her arms. "I," she stuttered, blushing. "Just don't make too much noise at night," said the woman, coming out of the kitchen with a foxy smile. "Ha-san," Naomi shouted, blushing. "Ah, nothing better than to bother my cute daughter," thought the smiling woman. With Issei. He took a taxi and went to his temporary job where he stayed until the afternoon. His job was simple, to help at the cool library, and then from there to his other job as a renegade demon hunter that he got a few days ago, the advantage of having contacts. Hours later. Issei is walking, looking at the sky and contemplating the sunset. Ah, how peaceful, Issei thought with a wide smile on his face. At that moment he remembered something and headed towards the occult club. When he arrived he proceeded to enter when Kaneko did. Rias and Akeno hugged him, almost killing him from lack of air. "Issei-senpai, don't scare us like that again," said the lowly Albina, hugging Issei. "Issei, my Issei, you had me worried," said Rias, hugging the brown-haired boy. "Issei-kun, you had me worried," Akeno exclaimed, hugging Issei even more tightly. "Air to air," Issei whispered, and luckily for him the door opened, revealing Kiba. "Hello Issei-kun, seize him, Edo girls, I think Issei is dying on us," exclaimed Kiba, looking at the blue Issei and with a slight touch of jealousy. After that the girls released him, leaving Issei with difficulty breathing. After that the 5 were drinking tea when Naomi came in. "Did Rias-senpai call me?" Naomi asked, smiling. "Yes Naomi, sit down and we will explain it to you," said Rias, sitting on the sofa next to Akeno, Hyoudou, and in front were Naomi, Kaneko and Issei, this one in the middle of the two. "You know very well that you are the Sekiryuite, right?" Rias said seriously, looking at Naomi. "Yes," she said, equally serious, materializing the boosted gear. This is when Issei fought against Rainer in the anime. Then they explained to Naomi about the demons and the factions. Of course Naomi already knew thanks to Ddraig. "Well, do you agree to join my entourage?" Rias asked, looking at Naomi. "Yes, I accept," Naomi exclaimed happily. After that Rias made her pawn. Everyone was chatting quietly until a magic circle with the Phoenix clan insignia appeared in the place from which a blonde with pigtails in the shape of a drill came out. "Ravel?" Issei asked, looking curiously at the Phoenix. "Issei-sama," said the Phoenix, looking with an almost imperceptible blush, looking away. "What's wrong, Ravel?" Issei asked, looking at the Phoenix. "Nothing," said the blonde, regaining some composure. "I want to ask you a favor, Issei-sama, of course, if you accept." "What is it about?" Issei asked, looking curiously at the blonde. The others just watched. "Well, you see, this also concerns Rias-sama. Ani-sama has discovered that in Kuo there is a large lair of rogue demons protected by a magic barrier that makes the presence of those demons imperceptible. That is one of the matters, and the other is that I wish Issei-sama to accompany me to the underworld because Ani-sama has a job for you." "Issei-sama," exclaimed Ravel, looking at Rias and Issei. "Well, we'll take care of the demon's lair ourselves," said Rias, standing up next to her servants. "Of course, Naomi, be careful," said Issei, looking at his younger sister. "Oh, of course I'll have it, Ani-chan," Naomi said, slightly blushing, but no one noticed. Okay Ravel, let's go, said Issei standing next to Ravel. Good luck Rias Sama, said Ravel before disappearing along with Issei through a magic circle with the Phoenix clan insignia. Okay guys, get ready, we'll go to that place when night falls, said Rias, receiving an hi from everyone present. Underworld Phoenix Mansion. This way I see Sama, exclaimed Ravel, guiding Issei to the room where Razor was looking at a fly. Hello Yakitori, said Issei, smiling mockingly at the blonde. Hello Issei, Razor exclaimed, smiling. Well, to what do I owe the honor of your call, Yakitori? Issei exclaimed, smiling with a certain touch of mockery in his voice. Well, dragon then. With Rias and her servants. They were all preparing for the mission, all except Naomi, who was sleeping on the couch. Hey, what do we do with Issei? Rias asked thoughtfully. I don't know but we have to think of something, exclaimed Kiba. If Issei senpai's birthday is near we could buy him an MMM, said the albino loli thoughtfully. Hey Hyoudou, when will you tell Issei your secret, asked Rias, smiling. I don't know, he said, blushing, looking at the window. I see, Rias exclaimed, smiling. Phoenix Mansion. I see, said Issei, looking at the ceiling. Okay, fine, let's go Yakitori. Issei said, going outside. Ravel stood on Issei's right side and Razor on his left side. Razor made a magic circle appear and both disappeared from the place. Location. Unknown. Here it is, said Razor, looking around somewhat uneasy because the place was quite old ruins, several tombstones in the background, corpses or skeletons here and there, and in the place all the trees and vegetation were quite non-existent. What a scary place, said Issei, looking around until he felt a small grab on his arm. He looked down and saw Ravel trembling. Calm down Ravel, hugs her, you'll be fine. Thank you Issei Sama, said the blonde, slightly blushed. Augustin, said Razor, smiling. At this Ravel and Issei blushed. Hey Issei, stay alert, I detect a pretty strong dark energy in this place, were Lilith's words in his mind. Understood, Issei replied mentally. In the distance, bones were heard crunching and a great thirst for blood was present. So they arrived, looking to one side where a gigantic monster 8 meters high and 18 meters wide approached, resembling a centaur but fatter and uglier with 18 eyes and a gigantic sword. Ravel, seeing the creature, became scared and positioned herself behind Issei. What the hell is that thing? Issei said, stepping back. It's the demon that we will help you hunt, dragon, said Razor, taking distance, materializing flames in his hands. Attack from a distance, I will attack head on berserk style, said Issei, stretching out his right hand where black flames began to form, flames that lengthened, revealing a sword of black flames. It's good that I obtained this power when Lilith unlocked my power. Flashback. Issei is seen training in a pocket dimension, fighting with Lilith, who dodged all of Issei's blows while reading a seduction book, you know, the normal thing for a succubus. Damn, I can't even touch you, said Issei, breathing heavily as he looked at Lilith, frustrated. Ah, I forgot something, reading the book Kakashi style. Ah yes, I must unlock your powers, you see, at the time of your birth strangely you were born with a power so to speak peculiar, you are the reincarnation of a demon god, name his name I forgot, but well that does not matter. The thing is that your power are black flames capable of destroying anything and a peculiar energy that I call antimatter. That energy allows you to heal any wound, no matter what it is, in a matter of seconds, but as a result you will not be able to attack. If you managed to master those flames you would be practically unstoppable. Great, said Issei, amazed. It must be said that the training was hell, literally, every moment he was burned by the flames, or when trying to summon them they made kabam, sending the chestnut flying. End of flashback. Ravel and Razor launched flames from a distance, pushing back the demon. Slow speed, medium agility, exuberant strength, keen eyesight, keen sense of smell, unknown powers. I'd better keep my distance and attack blind spots, but I'd better attack at will first, so I can see how strong their defense is, were Issei's thoughts as he materialized 2 black flame swords and launched himself at the demon. Ravel, Razor attack, their blind spots clouding their vision. Issei said as he had to jump, dodging the giant sword of the demon. He had to maneuver and do a somersault in the air, dodging a blow from the demon, but what he didn't see was the sword coming down hard against him, but he managed to put his flame swords in time, stopping the gigantic sword, but fell to the ground, creating a small crater where Issei landed. Razor Ravel, direct your flames to the eyes, said Issei with too much effort to retain the gigantic sword and the enormous strength of the demon. Hi Issei Sama, said Ravel, spreading her wings of fire, rising as well as Razor, who concentrated their flames in their hands, creating a great flame which was directed at the demon, hitting him in the sight, causing him to give a roar of pain, retreating. Aj gasp, he really is strong. Saying this, on his back appeared black wings, not like those of the fallen, but as if they were made of some kind of energy. Then Issei took flight, going against the demon, giving him a cut with his 2 swords on the arm, and then retreating, dodging the sword of the demon who attacked right and left trying to hit Issei. Ravel, Razor, together, said Issei, somewhat exhausted because using his flames for a long time took away a lot of his power. The three began to concentrate their flames in the palm of their hand, launching a powerful flame that the demon received immediately, but the surprise of seeing him intact was not long in coming. "It can't be," Razor said, surprised. "DSK, well the only way will be to decapitate him," said Issei, summoning his flame sword, approaching the demon, dodging his sword, jumping to his shoulder to then make the flames of his sword accumulate, thus creating a gigantic sword, decapitating the demon, killing him. "Finally," said Issei, falling on his back, being caught by Ravel. She just smiled and approached Razor, and in a magic circle they both disappeared. Unknown place. In a gloomy place full of humidity, where they seemed to be catacombs in a coffin made of some black metal, was the body of a subject with an old and worn black cape, next to him a trident with a dull green gem, but after a few seconds green rays began to fall on the coffin, illuminating the trident. Seconds later an explosion occurred where from the dense dust, two green eyes like emeralds were seen, eyes that after a few seconds disappeared. When the dust dissipated, the coffin was seen destroyed and inside there was nothing. The cult club. Rias and her servants were able to defeat the renegade demons, although they caused headaches, but thanks to Naomi, they were able to defeat them because her dragon shots were very useful to them, and when they asked her where she had learned those attacks, she told them that she had been training for a year and had managed to increase her strength, allowing her to use more augmentations. She could reach balance breaker, but she couldn't do it for more than 5 minutes because she still needed practice. "You did well," Naomi said, Rias smiling. "Go and rest, it was a good fight, now you deserve a very good rest." "Thank you, Rias, but you," said Naomi, saying goodbye to everyone and leaving the occult club, smiling on her way home. "Ah, Sayani-chan, I hope it went well for you too," thought Naomi, smiling. Phoenix Mansion. "Issei saw Sama here," said Ravel, handing him a small bottle. "You use it when you need it." Phoenix tears. "Damn, thanks Ravel," said Issei, hugging the phoenix, blushing slightly. "Well, take care, see you." That was the only thing Issei said before disappearing into a magic circle. Guo human world. Issei appeared in an alley, walking out of it and looked at his wristwatch and saw that it was around 22:31 p.m. He sighed and saw Aika sitting looking at the sky. "Ara, Kiryu, what are you doing here?" said Issei, sitting next to him. "Oh hello," Issei kisses him. "How were you?" said Aika, hugging Issei. "Well, my mission was somewhat complicated, but with help I was able to complete it," said Issei, hugging Aika. They both looked at the stars in silence, not an awkward silence, but a pleasant one. "Come on, I'll walk you home." "It's already late," said Issei, offering his hand to Aika, who took it with pleasure. Both walked through the streets arm in arm. Issei glanced at his girlfriend, who had slight chills, so he took off his jacket that Issei had forgotten the other time at the Phoenix Mansion and put it on Aika's shoulders, giving her more warmth. "Thank you," Aika murmured, still hugging Issei with a slight blush on her cheeks. "Anything for you, my love," he said, hugging Aika, who blushed more. After a few minutes Issei arrived at Aika's house, said goodbye to her and left in the direction of his own. "Ah, yawn, how sleepy," said Issei, walking lazily. "More than tomorrow classes, ah how lazy." Issei walked looking at the night sky, and the mere fact of how he and the Akatori met was peculiar. Flashback. Issei was next to Rias, both reading some papers until the Phoenix clan insignia revealing a smiling blonde. "Hello Rias," said Issei, smiling. "Hello Razor, what brings you here?" Rias said, taking off her glasses and looking at Razor, smiling. "Well, I came to ask you to lend me one of your servants to accompany me and Ravel to go do a mission that I want to do out of laziness. I'm bored, you know," said Razor, sitting on the couch stretching his head back. "Well, right now I only have Issei available, so he will help you," said Rias, looking at Issei. Okay, I just hope he doesn't die of fear," said Razor, smiling. "Say it for yourself, bleached blonde," Issei said, smiling with a big mocking smile. Forget it," he said, turning around. "Well, see you." End of flashback. Since that day we were like best friends, although sometimes I got into his problems. I'm grateful that Ravel put him in his place. Hahaha, Issei thought, amused, although the fact that Kiryu discovered me surprised me. Who would say that after finishing a mission and appearing in an alley, she would be right there, so he was forced to tell her everything in detail. When Issei arrived home, he was so tired that he went to the wrong room, and instead of going to his own, he went to Naomi's room. Naomi was sleeping peacefully. Issei was so sleepy that he didn't notice this, so he lay down on the same bed as her, turning his back on her as he fell asleep. The next day. Naomi woke up tired, but when she turned around she saw Issei sleeping peacefully, hugging her. This fact made the brunette blush quite a bit. Then after a few minutes Issei woke up, and when he realized where he was he went like lightning to take a bath on his way to the prison, but he did it without caring that it was for his beloved girlfriend Aika Kiryu. Chapter 3. Encounter Part 1. Issei was in the classroom, the teacher had left, now everyone was chatting or playing. In the case of the brown-haired boy, he was with Aika sitting on his legs while they laughed and talked about anything, and also told some jokes to pass the time. Obviously Naomi, who saw this, was slightly jealous, so she decided to approach. Hello Oni-chan said Naomi approaching the brown-haired boy. Hello Naomi Kiryu and Issei greeted. Can I be with you? She asked. Of course they answered smiling. In class they spent time playing, chatting and joking. After classes Naomi went to the occult research club and Issei went for a walk looking at the ceiling, but suddenly he collided with someone falling on top of him. Adade that hurts rubbing his head with one of his hands, one eye closed and his other hand to the side, avoiding falling on top of the girl below him. Ouch. Looks at Issei in pain rubbing his head Issei. She says while realizing how close their faces are and blushes too much. Are you? You're looking into her eyes, are you okay? You're all red said Is getting closer to the blue-haired girl's face. Why yes I'm fine he said standing up thanks to Issei's help. Thank goodness said Issei leaning against a wall and looking at Yura. Do you want to go eat something? Why yes, of course if it's not too much trouble she said smiling slightly blushing. No way said Issei smiling walking next to Yura. How are things in the student council? Issei asked because a few months ago he had helped the student council because at that time the council needed a little more help so they called Issei which he gladly accepted. He was not so perverted and was spying on women around there and he gained the trust of the council apart from Saji and Yura who had trusted him since he entered to help them. Everything is fine, Kaichu is really grateful for your help because thanks to you, we finished the tasks faster than expected, said Yura walking calmly next to Issei. I see, I'm glad I helped you he says smiling. At this, Yura smiled slightly. Oh, by the way, maybe I'll stop by a little later to say hello to Sona-chan. When Issei said the name of his president with the honorific chan, he was surprised. Excuse me for asking Issei, but how come you call Kaichu that way? She asked, extremely curious. Ah, well I've been calling her that since I played chess with her, according to what she told me I once said Issei, taking on a thoughtful posture. Flashback. Issei is seen sitting in a seat in front of Sona's desk and she's sitting in her respective seat surprised and in the middle of both on the desk, a chessboard where there were only a rook a pawn and a bishop on Issei's part and on Sona's a knight a rook and a pawn. The difference is that Sona was in check if she moved forward, Issei's rook captured it and Issei's bishop was preventing it from moving to the left. While Sona's rook was next to Issei's king forcing him to go forward and his knight captured it but Issei moved his pawn and promoted it to queen making checkmate. An MMM. Was the only thing Issei said when he saw Sona's shocked face. What's wrong Kaichu? Make your move, it's your turn. How am I going to make my move if I can't looking at the board surprised? Ah. Issei. Said confused he won. At that moment Sona wanted to hit Issei for his ignorance. Idiot, you won he said still unable to believe it. Ah. I won, wow I didn't expect that. Well Kaichu, I'm leaving because it was getting late. Standing up like Sona but she stepped wrong, causing her to almost fall on her front. She closed her eyes, waiting for the impact, but nothing happened. Instead, she landed on something comfortable. When she opened her eyes, she was surprised because she was on top of Issei, who was hugging her. Are you okay Kaichu? Issei asked smiling at the black-haired girl with glasses who nodded and then Issei stood up levitating with her still in his arms. Kaichu said Tsubaki entering but seeing Sona being hugged by Issei, he smiled warmly looking Sona directly in the eyes and she was looking at him blushing she couldn't help but smile. Oh how cute. Hearing Tsubaki's voice, they both separated sadly. WW what do you want Tsubaki? Said Sona trying to regain her composure. Nothing, I just wanted to let you know that I'm done with my chores and I'm going home. See you tomorrow. And hi do you know Issei-kun, thank you for helping us said Tsubaki as she kissed Issei's cheek and left. Well, Kaichu, I'm leaving too he is interrupted by Sona who put her index finger on Issei's lips, making him blush. Tell me Sona he said looking away. Hi Sona-chan he said surprising Sona by the honorific but then she was surprised to feel Issei kiss her cheek and say goodbye to her smiling. Flashback end. Oh I see said Yura somewhat surprised. Well, we arrived said Issei pointing to a store where they sold hamburgers. The rest of the afternoon Issei was chatting with Yura, they walked through the park until it got dark. Issei left Yura at her house and went to the occult club to see how she was doing. When he arrived he only saw Kaneko, so he assumed that the others had gone on a mission or some summoning. Hello Kaneko-chan said Issei sitting next to Kaneko, the moment he did she sat on his lap he rubs Kaneko's head while she eats her sweets happily. Where was Issei-senpai said Kaneko looking back, meeting Issei's gaze in her eyes. Over there Kaneko-chan he said and then kissed her forehead to which the loli blushed slightly. Well, said the loli, slightly blushing, eating her sweet again. How cute you are stroking Kaneko's head. The which Kaneko blushed slightly and continued eating her sweets. Do you want Issei-senpai? Said the loli offering him a sweet. Yes, thank you Kaneko-chan said Issei taking the sweet eating happily. You're welcome said Kaneko eating her sweets. The rest of the minutes were spent chatting and laughing. Issei-kun, we're back, said Akeno smiling. Ah, Keno-san, said Issei, smiling, who had Kaneko asleep on his lap. Wow, Kaneko really loves you, said Rias, smiling. Yes, she's my cute cowhide, he said, giving Kaneko a kiss on the cheek. The lowly smiled sleepily, and Issei laid her down on the couch and stood up. Well, Rias gives him a kiss on the cheek. See you, I have to go take care of a contract. Having said this, she disappears in a magic circle. Let's see, now that I think about it, who would bring me to this place, she said, admiring the somewhat gloomy place. I just hope. Issei didn't finish and did a somersault, dodging a trident that stuck right where he was standing, and then a green lightning fell and destroyed that place. Just a little bit and I'll end up roasted, Issei thought, sweating. Wow, interesting, you could feel me, Adramelech said, a subject with a suit consisting of a hood, a trident in his hand, an orb in his other hand, glowing green eyes and a chilling green aura. Who are you? Issei exclaimed seriously, putting himself on guard. Me? Just tell me, priest, said the subject, hitting the ground with his orb, creating a kind of crack with green energy that expanded, and thousands of beings with green eyes and bodies that seemed to be made of metal emerged from the ground. This is bad, Issei thought nervously. Without saying a word, the beings rushed towards Issei, who summoned his sword to fight them. With each cut he made to the beings with his sword, they fell apart and were consumed in black flames that could not be extinguished. Sixth element void, Issei thought. After that, many beings were torn apart when they were sucked into a black vortex, but this left Issei tired, who turned around and hid in a tree, breathing heavily. At this rate I'll end up dying, Issei thought, seeing himself at a clear disadvantage in both power and numbers. Of course, I remembered what I can use after that. Issei hits the ground, come immortals from the ground, emerge many subjects with totally black suits and hoods, covering their faces with swords and scythes. Help me, I beg you, said Issei, very tired. As Issei-sama ordered, said all the immortals in unison, and then attacked the beings of the priest, something useful just as its name says. The immortals, if they were so, they did not die. Surprising, but where is the priest, Issei thought anxiously as he looked around for such an enigmatic subject and instinctively jumped forward, and right where he was standing that trident fell, destroying the branch he was on. I found you, said the priest, smiling evilly. Shit, said Issei, summoning his sword, and launched himself at the priest. Metal blows and clashes were what was heard in the place, and then Issei was seen falling to the ground, very agitated. What are you? Said Issei, very tired. I already told you, I'm the priest. He was about to kill Issei by stabbing his trident into his head, but a cloak of black energy covered Issei, and as soon as the priest's trident touched Issei's body, surrounded by that energy, he was thrown out, crashing there. The antimatter? Said the priest, pained and surprised. What is this? Issei thought, looking at his hand surrounded by that energy, and then stretched his hand, and a black ray came out of his hand, hitting the priest in the chest, who remained static and moved with difficulty. Damn, said the priest as he launched himself against Issei. Issei imitated his opponent's action. This would start a brutal fight. Chapter 4. Encounter Part 2. What is this? Issei thought, looking at his hand surrounded by that energy, and then stretched his hand, and a black ray came out of his hand, hitting the priest in the chest, who remained static and moved with difficulty. Damn, said the priest as he launched himself against Issei. Issei imitated his opponent's action. This would start a brutal fight. The moment their fists collided, a powerful shockwave was present, destroying everything around them began to disintegrate. After that, the priest grabbed Issei by the neck and made him hit the ground. Issei quickly recovered to avoid the priest's trident that was about to hit him in the head, rolling to the side and then connecting an upward kick to the subject, who was sent flying. But that was not all, because Issei appeared above the priest, giving him a downward kick to the face, burying him in the ground, and spun to the side, dodging an energy beam from the priest, so that then their sword stopped the priest's trident, and then both launched their attacks. Issei's was purple and the priest's green. At the moment both attacks collided, the entire continent began to shake, so that multiple lightning bolts fell through the place and storm clouds formed, and it rained heavily. Go Occult Club. But what was the only thing Rias could say, shocked at seeing such a storm. This is extremely strange, said Kiba, looking at the sky until he opens his eyes. But you feels that power. What power? Rias concentrates and feels two powerful auras fighting in the distance. She was going to say something, but she sees a magic circle with the symbol of the Citri clan appear in the center of the room, and then Sona and her entourage come out. Rias, we must go investigate, said Sona, seriously standing next to her entourage. Okay, let's go, Rias said determinedly. Back with Issei. Punishment, said Issei, jumping and hitting the ground, creating a white shock wave that disintegrated several of the priest's heralds. Damn you, said the priest, stretching out his hand, generating a powerful torrent of green energy. Damn, infernal flame, said Issei, stretching his hand, sending a powerful black flame that easily pierced the priest's attack. Damn it, exclaimed the priest, jumping in the air, taking out his trident and attacking Issei, who barely dodged his attack, but couldn't dodge a kick that the priest gave him in the face, burying him in the ground. Ag, he gave a slight scream as he felt his arm break because the priest broke his arm by stepping on it hard. Two magic circles appeared, one with the symbol of the Citri clan and the other with the symbol of the Gremory clan, from where Rias and Sona came out with their respective entourages. "I see." Rias shouted in anguish as she saw Issei fighting the priest with a broken and injured arm, but the priest was just as beaten and injured. Issei shouted strongly, emanating two auras, one green aura and another black, both auras covered him. The priest snapped his tongue angrily, emanating an emerald green aura. The auras of both began to create a strong burst of power, making Rias and Sona retreat, along with their respective entourages. "What power?" thought Sona, amazed although she didn't show it much. "Malefic punishment," Issei said, stretching both arms, firing a torrent of immense power at the priest. "I won't let you down easy." "Soul destruction," exclaimed the priest, launching a torrent of green energy that collided with Issei's attack, creating a shock wave that begins to destroy the entire terrain. Faced with such a shock wave, Rias and Sona, along with their respective entourages, had to create a magic circle to defend and protect themselves, but it began to fill with cracks in the face of such a wave of power. Both attacks collided and fought, trying to destroy the other's attack, causing the ground to fill with cracks, making the storm become more atrocious, destroying the ground, while a shock wave created a crater. "Shit," Issei thought as he saw his attack losing ground to his opponent's imminent attack. "That's all? Are you going to let yourself be defeated that easily? You disappoint me, you're losing to a miserable being, hump. If that's the case, I'll take care of it," a mysterious voice in Issei's mind said. At that precise moment Naomi appeared, who had just returned from a mission that Rias had assigned her. Just at that moment she saw with terror how the priest's attack hit her full on. "Ani-chan." Naomi screamed, terrified, seeing how that fierce and tremendous attack hit Issei full on. "Haha, you finally died," said the priest, laughing, and then he stops a blow from Naomi with her balance breaker. "Hump, what an impertinent brat. Damn it." Naomi cried through tears after seeing her brother die. "Hump, la vie, disappear and join your brother." The priest was about to launch his attack to finish off Naomi, along with Rias and their respective entourages, but a blow to the face sends him crashing into some trees. "Don't touch my sister, you bastard," Issei said with a dark and cold voice, enveloped by a tornado of darkness. "Oh, Ani-chan," said Naomi, surprised seeing Issei. "Issei," said Rias, surprised along with her entourage because that evil was really high, and not to mention the power that Issei now emanated. Damn," said the priest, getting up with great effort because that last attack caused him a lot of damage. "Hump was the only thing," Issei said, stretching his hand to the sky where a sword appeared. "That sword." The moment the sword appeared and was wielded by Issei, the darkness became more powerful, destroying a large part of the place where they were. "Damned wretch," said the priest, invoking his trident, and both launched an attack. At the moment their weapons collided with each other's, creating a pulse of dark and green energy that rose through the skies, creating a terrible shock wave. "What power!" exclaimed Sona and Rias, creating a magic circle to avoid being blown away by the tremendous wave of power. "Ani-chan," Naomi muttered, doing her best not to be thrown by the shock wave. Underworld. The Redeed was in his office signing some papers, and next to him was a silver-haired maid. Both of them, feeling the wave of power, opened their eyes. "Did you feel that, Grafia?" asked the red-haired Mau, standing up. "Yes, Urzich's Sama, that power is colossal," said Grafia before disappearing in a magic circle, appearing on the battlefield, surprised to see Rias and Sona there with their entourages. "Rias, what are you doing here?" Urzich's couldn't finish because he felt an incredible pressure in the environment that made it difficult for him to stand, but Rias, Sona and the others were kneeling with difficulty breathing, and Naomi, she was seeing the great power of her Ani-chan power that attracted her greatly. "This ends here," said Issei, raising his sword to the sky so that it becomes quite long, emanating even more evil. At the moment he gave a sword blow to the priest's head, a pillar of dark power was unleashed, power that rose through the heavens. Urzich's was doing his best not to fall to his knees when an ace of light appeared and Michael came out of it, noticing the great accumulation of dark power. Seconds later, Azazel appeared, but both ended up the same as Urzich's, but said pressure disappeared after Issei began to plummet. Issei shouted, spreading her wings and catching Issei while caressing his cheek. "Rias," Issei murmured, opening his eyes. Seeing Rias, he could only smile slightly as Rias buried her head in his breasts. "Urzich's, tell me, do you know what that power that Issei emanated was?" Azazel said, looking at Urzich's. "I have no idea," said Urzich's, seeing Issei hugged by Rias, Akeno, Kaneko, Asia and Naomi. "That power is familiar to me," said Michael, gaining the attention of the Mau and the cadre, "but I can't remember where I felt that power. Maybe Dulio will help me. Anyway, I'll leave." Saying that, he disappeared in an ace of light. "Suspect," said Azazel, looking at Issei. "What a strange power anyway." That said, everyone went their own way. At night, Issei was walking towards the forest looking at his cell phone. Well, it will be fine here, right Lilith? Said Issei looking into nothingness. Clear Lilith's voice was heard in his head. After that Issei created a chalk circle and started drawing magic symbols, then he added some dark magic and the magic circle started to shine, creating a blinding light that forced Issei to cover his eyes. When he opened them he smiled. Hello Lilith-chan, Issei said, smiling at the beautiful woman in front of him. That will be Lilith's appearance, just give her succubus wings and horns. Oh finally free said Lilith stretching you kept your promise now I will keep mine, but later. Okay no problem for me, said Issei walking next to Lilith. Tell me what was that power that I manifested when I fought against that guy. I'm not sure, I only know that it is a very ancient power that belonged to a demon god before Lucifer. I see said Issei and then saw Kiryu walking home reading a magazine about things like bondage. Okay Issei-kun, but don't take long said Lilith walking towards the food store. Issei is seen taking out his wallet and sees that his credit card is missing. There's Lilith Issei murmured, crying in an I'm style. I just hope she doesn't do the same thing as Kiryu. The moment he remembered that, he shuddered because when Kiryu took his credit card, she almost left him penniless. Leaving that aside, Issei sneaked up behind Kiryu and picked her up, scaring her in the process. I Issei don't scare me like that said Kiryu with a slight pout. He's sorry love said Issei giving him a warm kiss to which Kiryu reciprocated and took the book from him. Look how perverted you are. No more than you Issei said Kiryu smiling. Wow, I don't see any flaws in your logic, Issei said, laughing, then massaging Kiryu's breasts. Issei not here said Kiryu blushing. Then let's go to my house, he murmured flirtatiously, but Kiryu slapped him. Last time we almost got caught Kiryu said laughing, maybe another time love I want to be able to walk still. Okay love said Issei walking to Kiryu's house to leave her there. The next day. Issei walked to the academy calmly with Lilith, who was going to enroll in the academy to be closer to Issei, but they saw an albino standing at the entrance and next to him a motorcycle. Hello Hyoudou Issei said the albino with his arms crossed. Hello Volley said Issei smiling. Chapter 5. Awakening. Issei walked to the academy calmly with Lilith, who was going to enroll in the academy to be closer to Issei, but they saw an albino standing at the entrance and next to him a motorcycle. Hello Hyoudou Issei said the albino with his arms crossed. Hello Volley said Issei smiling. Flashback 1 year ago. You can see Issei training on a mountain raising his aura to control it as much as he could because although it was true that they won the rating game, but he still did not control his power at least no more than 10%, which compared to all his power was very weak, so he had to awaken it. Come on Issei-kun you can do it, said Lilith supporting Issei. Thank you Lilith, I will continue to strive to master my power, said Issei determinedly starting to train harder, but he stops when he sees 3 figures coming out of a dimensional gap. That was too easy Naya said a beautiful black-haired woman with a very hexy body, black cat ears, and a cat tail. The other 2 were a stoic-looking albino and a serious-looking blonde with 2 swords at his waist. If too much said the albino, but then he sees Issei and sees the land totally destroyed, he slightly opened his eyes observing Issei. Tell me were you the one who caused this mess? Asked Volley. Yes I guess, why the question? Said Issei drinking water. Well then fight me said Volley stoically, arms crossed. At that Issei spat out his water. Okay I guess, but why? Said Issei confused it was the first time he saw someone so strange appearing out of nowhere seeing a guy training and then telling him to fight was strange. I just want to test my strength, besides I don't think it will take me long to defeat you said Volley and then smiled. Okay then said Issei to put himself on guard. At this Volley smiled. Volley is always thinking about fighting Naya said the smiling black-haired girl lying on a tree like a cat. Well that's how it is said the blonde adjusting his glasses while sitting on a rock. Issei versus Volley. Both were on guard, staring at each other, analyzing each other until suddenly they both disappeared and then appeared in front of each other and connected a powerful punch to the other's face that made both of them fly backwards. Issei had fallen quietly and then looked up and dodged a kick from the albino that upon impact with the ground created a small crater. He's fast Issei thought, seeing Volley who once again launched an attack. Volley was quickly attacking the brunette, testing how strong and skilled he was, and noticed that the brunette had good reflexes as well as speed, so he smiled slightly because Issei could keep up with him, although of course he hadn't even started to fight seriously. I can see that you're not doing badly at all said Volley looking at Issei who was standing a few meters in front of him. Thanks, you're also quite skilled said Issei with a smile but it's time to fight seriously, don't you think? Volley opened his eyes slightly and then smiled because the brown-haired boy wasn't fighting seriously either. But said Volley taking out his wings, you know Albion's 1v, to later attack Issei with more speed than before. At this Issei just smiled and launched himself at Volley who, as they clashed fists hard, a cloud of dust rose and part of the ground where they were standing cracked. Issei and Volley walked away, then the chestnut disappeared and appeared in front of Volley, hitting Volley hard, who managed to cover himself with his left forearm from the chestnut's blow. Then Volley appeared behind Issei and tried to hit him, but Issei disappeared from the place, leaving Volley slightly surprised while trying to find the chestnut feeling his aura. "Were you looking for me?" Issei said, appearing behind Volley, ready to give him a downward kick to the head, but Volley dodged it and hit the chestnut in the face, causing a trickle of blood to fall from his mouth. "Not bad Hyoudou," said Issei looking at Volley. "You are strong and skilled, but enough of games." Issei said as a purple aura surrounded him and gathered in his arms before disappearing and appearing in front of Volley, who couldn't dodge Issei's blow that hit him directly in the face, creating a shock wave, forcefully raising the dust. When Volley received Issei's blow, he was thrown with force against about 6 trees, splitting them in half. Volley just smiled slightly. That blow had hurt him. He had to admit it, but he wouldn't lose, not at least without a serious fight. Vanishing Dragon Balance Breaker. Albion's voice resonated in the place, creating a blinding light that forced Issei to cover his eyes with his left forearm. "What a balance breaker," Issei said, smiling. "This is getting harder and harder." "Scared Hyoudou?" said Volley smiling under his helmet. "Not even a little," said Issei as a violet aura covered his arms and claws of the same aura formed on his fingers. With that, they both launched into the attack. Issei quickly found himself in trouble because he knew well that if Volley touched him, he would use Divine Dividing, and this time Volley could use it as many times as he wanted. "What's wrong Hyoudou? I notice you're very slow, so slow that it seems like you're not moving," said Volley dodging Issei's blows to hit him in the stomach, causing him to arch in pain, and then kick him in the face, causing him to crash into a rock. "What power?" said Issei in pain, getting up as he could, but the aura that surrounded his arms vanished. Divide was hurt in the place. "DSK, I think I lost," said Issei falling to his knees. "The fight is over," Naya said, the black-haired girl moving her tail, but she opened her eyes when she saw Issei get up with a dark aura surrounding him and his hair covering his eyes. Issei without saying anything disappeared and appeared in front of Volley, giving him a swipe with his left hand sending him to the sky and then appearing above him and kicking him in the stomach, sending him to the ground, causing part of Volley's armor to fill with cracks. Volley got up in pain and saw Issei, surprised to see his aura and see that his nails became claws, his honey-colored eyes turned blood red, and he had 2 horns. Issei looked at him levitating and then fell and punched him in the face, causing his helmet to break and appear behind Volley, grab him by the neck and smash his head into the ground, leaving him knocked out by the blow against the ground, leaving as a result a crater in the place where Volley's head was smashed. The blonde and the black-haired girl remained silent, impressed because Volley had been defeated, but even more so when they saw the brown-haired boy's appearance, but they saw that the brown-haired boy began to stagger, while his aura disappeared and his eyes and hands returned to normal, and then he fell to the ground. Well, it would have been like that if Kuroka hadn't caught him. "Not bad, I would like to know what our offspring would be like," Naya said Kuroka mockingly and flirtatiously to annoy Issei. "Haha, they would be quite strong and cute like their mother," said Issei smiling at Kuroka who was blushing, "but before having offspring you would have a night full of passion," said Issei whispering to Kuroka. Kuroka was red as a tomato, she wanted to bother Issei or make him uncomfortable, but the one who ended up embarrassed was her. She even imagined her and the brown-haired boy doing unholy things, while he totally dominated her. But the sound of something falling to the ground brought her out of her thoughts to see Issei passed out on the floor. Arthur had a poker face watching the scene in front of him. A volley crashed on the floor, a fainted Issei face down, and a blushing Kuroka fantasizing about Issei. Flashback end. Issei and Volley were quietly chatting about how they had trained and such, they are friends rivals. "Haha, it will be interesting to have a fight again, don't you think Hyoudou?" Volley asked, smiling slightly. "Obviously," Volley said Issei with a smile. "Ani-chan." A girl's voice was heard when Issei and Volley turned to see where the voice came from, they had different thoughts. From Volley it was she as the Sekurute. On Issei's part it was Oshid. Volley was watching a fly until he heard something crash against something. Once he turned around he saw Issei under Naomi, who was angry with an adorable pout at Issei's words. "Ani-chan bad because you didn't wait for me," said Naomi with a pout lightly hitting Issei's chest. "You look so adorable sleeping," Issei said, blushing because Naomi's breasts were covering his mouth. "Wait, are you brothers?" Volley asked. "Well, he is my Ani-chan," said Naomi hugging a blushing Issei. "That smells like incest to me," Volley said with a poker face. "Well, what does it matter, see you Hyoudou and Sekurute." With that, Volley got on his motorcycle and drove off calmly, running over the director of the academy, who flew through the air reading a small orange-covered book. Issei saw his director fly through the air making a V with his fingers before crashing into the pavement being hit by a car flying away, and when he was about to crash into the window of his office, his secretary opened the window, causing the guy to enter through the window and miraculously fall sitting in his seat. Even if I see it thousands of times I don't understand how he doesn't end up dead, Issei thought with an anime-style drop of sweat on his neck. Issei was taken out of his thoughts when he saw Aika and then kissed her on the lips, leaving Naomi jealous. "Let's go to the hall," said Issei walking calmly next to Aika. "Hey, wait for me," said Lilith running, bouncing her huge up ace to throw herself on Issei's back. "Issei-kun, why didn't you wait for me?" said the albino, pouting. Deja vu, Issei thought, walking next to Lilith on his back, Aika hugging his left arm and Naomi putting Issei's right arm between her breasts. Naomi's appearance. "Nani-chan," said Naomi looking at Issei. "Tell me," Naomi said Issei thoughtfully. "Rias Butchu says that today there will be a meeting between the factions for an alliance. Will you come?" Naomi said, smiling. "Well, the truth is I don't want to stay home alone," he said somewhat nervously, remembering that his mother didn't stop harassing him while he was alone. In the afternoon. Issei can be seen walking through the streets of Cool looking at the sky with a calm look until he saw the time and decided to go to the meeting. Once there he saw Azazel, the leader of the Fallen Angels faction, Michael the Overlord of Heaven, Surziches the Mao Lucifer, Sona, Rias and their respective entourages, and Vali who was leaning on a wall with his arms crossed. "Well, since we're all here, we can start," Surziches said with a smile. The meeting proceeded peacefully until suddenly everyone froze except Vali, Saji, Issei, the faction leaders and Naomi. "What happened?" Naomi said, confused. At that moment, in a white flame, Lilith appeared, agitated and worried. "What's wrong, Lilith?" Issei said, confused, seeing her very worried. "We must quickly leave," he didn't finish as everything turned grey and they appeared in what seemed to be catacombs. "It's late, Issei, better get ready, because he has awakened." Issei immediately knew who it was. His archenemy had awakened, the one who wields the corrupted power of the terrible Imiter. "Excuse me, but what's wrong?" said Azazel looking at Lilith with lustful eyes, but his gaze turned into fear when he felt Issei's dark aura when he noticed how he looked at Lilith. "The bearer of the Imiter has awakened and brought us to his domains. Issei uses the antimatter," said Lilith, ready for battle. "Imiter? Antimatter?" Surziches asked. "I'll explain it to you. Antimatter is the power that makes its bearer disappear from the existential plane, making it out of reality, making it untouchable and capable of regenerating any existing wound. Imiter is the corrupt power possessed by the chaos gods that, mixed with their cursed worshippers, merged to create a spatial vortex called Eye of Terror, where Imiter accumulated, turning that place into an uninhabitable center where only beings of great evil lie there. In short, Imiter is the power that is capable of ending up totally corrupted and full of evil, used to destroy entire universes, and antimatter is the power that regenerates any physical, mental or ground damage, capable of regenerating entire universes." Lilith said, explained, leaving Surziches and the others except for Issei and Vali, who already knew Issei because he was a carrier of antimatter, and Vali, who asked Issei. Before anyone could say anything, the place began to collapse and a red aura emanated from the ground. "Shit," said Issei, covering everyone with a thin layer of antimatter. At that, Azazel was amazed to see that energy called antimatter was so concentrated. In a few words, was pure power. Michael for his part was surprised, but he had the impression that the names Imiter and antimatter sounded familiar to him, but he did not know where he had heard them, and Surziches was highly surprised to see the antimatter and that red energy, that if you looked at it closely, you could see that both energies repelled each other fiercely, as if they had life. "Wow, we finally meet, antimatter bearer," said a really chilling voice from the shadows. At that chilling voice, everyone stood on guard. Vali and Naomi entered their balance breaker, Saji materialized his Vritra fragment, and the leaders began to emanate their power, putting themselves on guard for their part. Issei emanated his antimatter, and Lilith materialized white flames in her hands and in her eyes. "Show yourself," Issei ordered, and in front of him among the shadows, some red flames appeared and a young woman of a person with long red hair to the waist, totally red eyes and burning in crimson flames, and a cloak of red-violet energy, dressed in a black suit with two swords made of that red energy came out. "That energy Imiter, that form, this is bad. He controls 100% of his Imiter," thought Lilith, clearly nervous when she saw the woman standing in front of Issei. For his part, Issei was tense seeing the young woman in front of him. Her presence alone made the leaders of the factions present look like ants before her great power. "You are the bearer of antimatter," said that young woman in a monotonous voice. "Why, yes, and you are the carrier of the Imiter," said Issei, starting to emanate his antimatter. "That's right," she exclaimed, emanating her Imiter, creating thousands of cracks around the catacombs, causing them to begin to crumble at great speed. For their part, the faction leaders, Vali, Saji and Naomi, were kneeling and could barely breathe under the pressure of the environment. Lilith, for her part, was having serious difficulty standing. Issei and the young woman continued to emanate their energy, almost reaching levels of uncontrolled energy, then disappeared and clashed fists, creating a shockwave and black and red rays that destroyed the entire place, causing the catacombs to be completely destroyed, but the result was that Issei was sent flying backwards by the force of the blow, showing that the bearer of Imiter was much stronger and more experienced than him. The leaders along with the other four were flying to avoid being crushed by the rocks. "You are weak, your antimatter is weak," said the bearer of the Imiter approaching Issei, who was paralyzed by the red rays that covered him and immobilized him. What will you do?" Issei asked nervously. She didn't say anything, she just touched his forehead and Issei started to scream in pain, falling to his knees, emanating antimatter uncontrollably. "I see your body is not ready," she said, touching Issei's forehead again, making the antimatter stop coming out, causing him to fall unconscious with his face in her breasts. "Of so many carriers of antimatter, you are perhaps the rarest, you know. You can control antimatter to a quite apt degree. You have the dormant energy of a demon king and that of a kind of god of calamity. It is rare but interesting." She looks at Issei, who is waking up. "Wow, you had fainted and I was talking to myself anyway. Comfortable?" she asked, seeing Issei's face between her breasts. Yes, but why don't you finish me off if you already defeated me?" Issei asked. "I don't know, tell me," she said, walking away. "Hyoudou, Issei, become strong so you can entertain me much more." Issei just stood there confused by that woman's words. For their part, Vali, Saji and Naomi were lost because when the catacombs collapsed, they flew in any direction to avoid the rocks. Serziches was walking around looking for the others, Michael was flying trying to find his way, and Azazel fell into a cliff and many rocks fell on his head. "Issei-kun, are you okay?" asked Lilith, landing next to Issei, who stared at the Redeed, who took off her mask and saw Issei and Lilith. "I am possible H. How are you alive, Kiran T? You should be dead." "You said I should, but you should know that I am eternal. This curse keeps me and will keep me alive forever," said Kiran, before appearing in front of Issei and biting his neck, leaving a mark of her teeth. Kiran aspect. "Why did you bite me?" Issei asked, grabbing a Lilith who wanted to skin Kiran. Kiran didn't say anything, he just disappeared. Issei was going to say something, but suddenly his body went numb and he fainted. Days later. Issei is seen walking down the street yawning until he turned a corner and saw his father kissing another woman. "Nah, I was expecting it," he said, and continued on his way, worried not because his father was with another woman, he already knew that since he was 8 years old, but who worried him was his mother Hazumi. When he entered his house, he saw his mother sad cooking. Seeing her like that hurt him a lot because despite the fact that she had forgotten him in her childhood, he still considered her someone special to him because unlike his father, when she realized that she had forgotten him in her childhood, she did everything possible to get closer to him and receive his forgiveness, even bothering him in a perverted way. Although he continued ignoring her, she was happy because at least she did want his forgiveness. Issei stealthily approached behind Hazumi and hugged her from behind, surprising her. "What are you cooking, Ka-chan?" said Issei, whispering in her ear. Hazumi, for her part, upon hearing Issei say Ka-chan, could only smile with tears and happiness, forgetting her sadness at seeing her husband being unfaithful to her again. "I'm cooking yakitori with rice. I hope you like it, sweetheart," said Hazumi, cooking happily again. "Of course I would like, Ka-chan," said Issei, smiling for a moment when he said yakitori with rice. "I imagined razor fried with rice surrounding it," Issei thought. While Hazumi was cooking, Issei helped her by setting the table and preparing some tea. Ka-chan, Naomi will not come to dinner. Rias and the others will go to a dinner in the underworld to celebrate the alliance," said Issei, as he sat on the sofa. "I see, it's fine, but weren't you invited?" Hazumi said asked. Yes, I was invited," he said, taking a plate. "And why didn't you go?" Hazumi said asked, serving Issei the food. "Because if I went I would leave you alone, which I don't want, besides I like your food," said Issei, smiling widely. Hazumi, upon hearing Issei's words, smiled very happily and moved because he still loved her and cared about her well-being. "I see, thanks sweetheart," said Hazumi, giving him a kiss on the cheek. Dinner went normally, both chatting calmly without problems until Issei's father arrived. "Hazumi, hick, where the hell are you?" said Mizuki, Issei's father. Hazumi, upon hearing Mizuki's voice, hid behind Issei, clearly scared because when Mizuki was drunk, he always hid and humiliated her if she didn't pay attention to him or yelled at him, or worse, if she asked for a divorce. "What do you want?" Hazumi said, clearly annoyed but scared inside. "You know, hick," laughed Mizuki, licking her lips, getting closer to Hazumi, but Issei pulled Hazumi towards him. "Go away, you have nothing to do with Ka-chan, go," Mizuki said Issei with a serious and cold voice. "Who do you think you are, insolent boy? Don't interfere, she's my wife," Mizuki shouted, clearly angry. "Oh, of course now she's your wife when a few hours ago you were sleeping with one of your many lovers. Do me a favor and get out of here," said Issei coldly. Mizuki was surprised by Issei's way of speaking, his coldness and seriousness made him shiver. I want a divorce, Izumi said in a firm voice. Mizuki tried to hit her, but Issei grabbed his fist with force, causing Mizuki's hand to crack, causing her to scream in pain. First you come here drunk trying to force my mother to do something she doesn't want, then you come and try to hit her get lost, and be thankful that Kachan is here or she would totally destroy you, said Issei in a cold voice watching Mizuki run away. Izumi was surprised by Issei's words and how he defended her made her feel safe. Well, he's gone now said Issei hugging Izumi. Are you okay? See of course sweetheart thanks to you said Izumi smiling. After washing the dishes they both went to sleep. Issei was staring at the ceiling lying in his bed thinking about what he was going to do about his training, because in his fight against Kirin, he was easily defeated by her, but he was taken out of his thoughts when he saw some lightning, and later a fierce storm broke out, then he saw how Izumi and Naomi came in scared and jumped onto Issei's bed, hugging him trembling from the thunder. So Naomi inherited her childish character, her fear of lightning and her beauty from Kachan Issei thought as he hugged them and fell asleep. Other side. Kirin can be seen sitting on a throne made of bones drinking blood from a silver cup, watching the storm through the window of her castle. Soon they will arrive and when that happens he said smiling I hope you awaken your power Hyoudou Issei or else your whole world will be enslaved. Chapter 6. Destiny. Somewhere in the multiverse. On what appeared to be a devastated planet filled with corpses everywhere, there was a young albino walking calmly among the corpses that lay scattered everywhere, most of them were mutilated, others were burned, and others were simply devoured. Ah what peace and tranquility, peace that only the silence of death can give exclaimed that young man as he passed over the corpse of a woman who was tightly hugging the corpse of a child of no more than 6 years old. Now I wonder what other galaxy I will destroy or enslave exclaimed the young man stretching out his hand and seeing the thousands of galaxies throughout the multiverse until one in particular caught his attention. Ho. That dimension is perfect. Kirin. I will finally be able to kill you or even better make you my slave laughed that young man with dementia as he released a power that caused the corpses to be reduced to simple dust soon you will be subdued before my dear. After that young man who clearly had serious and dangerous mental problems disappeared in an ace of violet light. Duocentro commercial. At the mall, Issei was seen walking, juggling to avoid the large tower of boxes that Naomi, Aika, and Izumi had bought from falling, and next to him was Saji, who was carrying a pile just as high as Issei's, except they were things that Momo and Haruko had bought. And tell me Issei, how did we end up like this? Asked Saji without losing concentration and avoiding the large pile of boxes and bags from falling on him, crushing him like the director and his pile of newspapers. I don't know Saji, I don't know, but more importantly, how much all this will cost us said Issei, whose hair was barely visible because he carried the boxes and bags even on his shoulders. It will cost us a lot, but they will be happy, and that is what is worth it, he said while walking juggling leaving the shopping center and then saying goodbye to each other and going their separate ways. Hyoudou residence. Once Issei left Aika at her house and said goodbye to her with a kiss, he went towards his house with Izumi and Naomi on the way they had an occasional laugh at the jokes that once they arrived at his house, they proceeded to put away what they bought. Tell me Naomi, how are you doing with your boosted gear mastery? Issei asked while arranging the purchases. Let's go on Ichan, at least I can easily access balance breaker and increase my power 20 times in 8 seconds. I learned dragon shot, Azazel sensei is training me alongside Kiba-san Naomi mentioned while smiling happily and materializing the boosted gear. After the small explanation that Naomi gave him about his performance and progress using the boosted gear, Issei smiled slightly as he arranged the purchases and took out his phone, putting it to charge. Oh you're making quite a bit of progress Naomi, that makes me happy and proud. I really knew that with the proper tutelage you could improve greatly exclaimed Issei as he looked at his phone and saw several messages. Among those messages, one caught his attention Naomi, I'll go out for a while. I'll be back for dinner, okay? After that Issei walked away saying goodbye to Naomi with a kiss on the cheek and a hug to Izumi and then walking towards a clearing in the mountainous area of Kuo, once there he looked for someone. I know you're here Volley I laughed softly as I looked at the sky while the albino came out from between some trees and then leaned against a tree with his arms crossed why did you call me? I could be quietly at home with my beautiful sister and my. And you Hexy mother, I know, don't remind me Volley interrupted and then laughed slightly. I was going to say wonderful mother. Issei exclaimed somewhat indignant and ashamed that they think that way about him. Ha ha ha, of course you do. What I wanted to ask you when I came here is simple, I would like to know how you know that you are in love with someone asked Volley while looking sideways at a tree, avoiding looking at Issei. At this Issei simply blinked in confusion and surprise, only managing to utter a huh. He brought his index finger and thumb to his chin, adopting a thoughtful posture. Well, you care about that person, you want to always be by his side, you don't want anyone to get close to him, and you are jealous even if you don't show it, and you feel a unique warmth and happiness by his side, Issei finished saying with a wide smile from ear to ear. With that explanation, Volley looked at the sky and was thoughtful. Could it be that she loved him? She was a bit jealous of him. Every time one of the girls wanted to hug him, she would go ahead and hug him without a doubt. She didn't know much about feelings, but he also felt something for her because of that warmth he felt by her side. Thanks, I owe you one. Hyoudou saying that he walks away quietly with his hands in his pockets. Hyoudou residence. After an hour, Issei arrived home only to find that it was uninhabited. He assumed they had gone out somewhere at that moment. He quickly checked his wallet, only to find that his credit card was gone. He sighed lightly and laughed, then entered the house. When he entered, the only thing he saw were the bathroom lights on. Without thinking much, he entered only to run into a beautiful naked orange-haired girl with pigtails, who, when she felt she was being watched, turned around quickly, only to meet Issei's gaze. Hey Kaya. The orange-haired girl's cry of shame was the only thing that could be heard throughout the house, before she quickly covered herself. Issei, still blushing, turned around, giving his back to the embarrassed orange-haired girl, before even saying anything. He quickly ducked before a sword almost cut him in two, but immediately felt his body paralyzed. What the hell? Issei thought, somewhat overwhelmed by such surprise. He looked behind him at a blonde dressed as an exorcist with a serious face, and her hands extended towards him, emanating a golden aura continuously towards him. Then he understood that she was the reason why he couldn't move. Wait, it's not what you th. He was immediately silenced when he felt the edge of a sword on his neck. He looked in front of him, bumping into a violet-haired girl who was looking at him menacingly. He opened his eyes in shock when he saw the sword. He recognized it. It was Durandal. Shut up, you have no right to speak. You entered the house without permission, and now you were spying on Irina. I will not forgive you for that. I will atone for your sins with my. Before she could even finish, she was stamped on the wall due to a push from Irina that made Issei and the blonde behind him sweat. Wait, Xenovia. I remember now, don't kill him please, and Asia-chan, leave him, okay? Said Irina, going towards Issei with a towel covering her breasts to a little below her butt. Issei-kun? She asked, looking at him. She smiled and jumped, hugging him, but when she did, her towel fell off. Issei, without understanding much, seeing that she jumped to hug him, reacted quickly, catching her while holding her legs, but he was nervous since the breasts of the orange-haired beauty who apparently knew him were very close to his face. Very close was the thought that ran through the black-haired boy's head, blushing slightly while the girl's breasts were practically rubbing against his face, but he was taken out of his thoughts when he heard the girl's name, Irina. He opened his eyes as he remembered his childhood friend and hugged her too, holding her close to him. Irina. I haven't seen you in a long time, he exclaimed with great happiness, hugging her while she imitated the black-haired boy's action, equally or even happier than him. Meanwhile, the blue-haired girl known as Xenovia and the blonde girl known as Asia looked at everything somewhat confused, but at the same time slightly uncomfortable, because Irina didn't care about being naked, hugging that boy, and for the boy, the happiness he felt at meeting her again was greater than having her completely naked stuck to him. That Xenovia-san, who is the boy? It seems that Irina-san loves him a lot, asked the blonde with a confused expression, looking at the blue-haired girl on her side. I don't know, Asia, but I agree, it seems that they have known each other for a long time. I hadn't seen Irina so happy and smiling for a while, but whoever that boy is, it seems that he is very special to her, said Xenovia with her arms crossed, but a kind and happy smile formed on her face while she looked at her friend, very happy with that black-haired boy. Asia, for her part, watched her friend hug the happy boy while they both chatted animatedly and played some casual games between them. She was slightly surprised to see that the boy did not act pervertedly when he saw her friend naked, and that her friend was very calm and happy, not caring about being naked in front of a boy. She really did not understand much, but what she was very happy about, she could not deny it. She smiled slightly. She was taken out of her thoughts when she saw Irina and Issei approach them. Issei-kun, let me introduce you to my friends. The blonde is Asia-chan. Asia bows slightly in a sign of respect. And the blue-haired girl who almost decapitated you is my friend Xenovia. The aforementioned one bowed, somewhat embarrassed to remember that. Haha, don't worry Irina, I understand. I would also react like that if I heard my friend scream and saw a stranger near her. Well, it's a pleasure to meet my best friend's friends. I hope we get along. Smiling, Issei approached them, giving each of them a kiss on the cheek, making them blush slightly as they admitted he was handsome. This caused a forced smile from Irina as she felt a little jealous at that moment. Right, Irina, you're naked, Issei said with a slight blush, scratching his cheek. Yes, I know Issei-kun, but since it's you can see whatever you want, after all we've known each other for a long time, laughed Irina, while tenderly hugging the black-haired man, again leaving a surprised Asia and Xenovia. True, Issei-kun. Naomi-san brought us here because we had nowhere to stay during our stay in Kao. Michael-sama brought us here to investigate certain things and help the Gremory clan and Citri to monitor the area, but we are hungry finished, saying the orange-haired woman using the puppy eyes no jutsu, causing Issei to step back, blushing as much as possible, as if it were magic Xenovia, and Asia's stomach roared leaving as a result that they blush embarrassed. Sure. Well, why get dressed, Arena? Let's go eat, I'll treat, said Issei blushing as he turned around, but immediately Arena hugged him, pressing her breasts on the black-haired boy's back, causing a trickle of blood to run from his nose. Then she went with Asia and Xenovia to the second floor and sighed slightly in relief, sitting on the sofa. Calmly his gaze suddenly became sharp. What are you doing here, Kieran, he said, turning around facing the Redeed who was looking at him seriously. Outside Kao. In a clearing far from Kuo landed a shadow that emanated a purple aura and a rather sinister smile. Kuo looked at him, rising slightly. Ah, Kuo, no. So here you are, Kieran, you will soon be mine along with this world, bringing one of his hands to his face, laughing in a mocking and psychotic way. He jumped from the clearing, falling into a nosedive, smiling. Once he landed on the ground, the albino entered the city and looked at everything, smiling while looking to his left, running into a girl with blonde hair, leaning at the entrance of an alley injured and hugging her legs. He took out his sword and approached her, dragging the edge of the sword on the ground. The girl slightly raised her head, looking at him with eyes devoid of shine, full of pain and suffering. The albino stopped walking when he saw those eyes. A fleeting memory appeared in his head, causing him to stagger, remembering his childhood, until an old man helped him but was killed by thieves. Because I remembered that TSK, because now I look at the girl who was looking at a little hat where there were a few coins. When she was going to take it, a drunk took the hat and the money from her. She tried to stop him, but he kicked her in the face and started hitting her. It's none of my business, I've killed so many, it's no business. When he was about to withdraw, he heard the weak whisper of the girl say help. He grabbed his sword tightly and beheaded the man without any compassion. Approaching, the girl simply looked at her and noticed that she had many serious wounds and her throat was very injured. Therefore he deduced that her vocal cords had been rendered useless. Without further ado, sighed slightly and his sword turned into a cane. He approached her and began to heal her before the surprised look of the lowly he created some clothes for her and without further ado looked at Kuo for a few brief seconds and looked at the lowly out of the corner of his eye. Why, this is what they call the chance of destiny. Without further ado, she extended her hand to the lowly, who took it with fear and carried her and walked into the forest. Again using her power, she created a small dwelling. Maybe it will help me with my plans in the future, but TSK, this is weird. Without further ado, they entered the house where he simply left it on a wooden piece of furniture and began to remember how to cook. Since he always fed on power and blood, he shrugged and began to cook something. What he was totally unaware of was that Kieran was flying over the area, stoic, but a slight smile appeared on his face. Lars, old friend, you are not bad. You have made many mistakes, but deep down I know that there is still that loyal and kind young man who was my companion and who once fought alongside me for our Lord eons ago. I hope the girl saves you from your own darkness. Without further ado, he disappeared without leaving a trace of his presence. The next day. Issei walked towards the occult club, chatting with Naomi, Rias and Akeno. The four laughed lightly. Once arriving at the occult club, they met the trio from the church and the trio from the falls. What do I owe your visit to? Rias asked, looking at the three exorcists. Well, by order of Michael-sama, we will be here, helping to protect this territory together with the Citri clan. I hope we can get along. Asia smiled sweetly, bowing with her friends. At that, Rias smiled, welcoming the three girls from the church. Rainer, what do I owe your visit to? Issei asked with a slight smile, caressing the cheek of the fallen girl who was blushing, looking at the chestnut. Why, you see, something bad is going to happen. We don't know what it is exactly, but we detected a dark energy reaching Kuo a few hours ago. That's why Penemu-sama sent us as reinforcements for you, explained the fall, looking Issei in the eyes. Oh, I see then, welcome, smiled Issei, giving a kiss on the forehead to Rainer while looking out the window. Then he felt a dark energy bloom on the outskirts of the club. Then he ran outside, running into a man standing and smiling, while his aura emanated darkness and evil. I hope you meet my expectations. The subject murmurs softly, summoning a great sword. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.